This program is a recording and the Phoenix FM text line is currently closed. If you wish to comment on this program, email info@phoenixfm.ie and your comments will be passed to the program makers. This is 92.5 Phoenix FM, community radio for Dublin 15.
It is Monday, October the 31st, 2016, Halloween. Welcome to, I guess we're going to call this Wrestleview Live, even though technically we can't do this live since you're listening to this on Phoenix FM 92.5 in Dublin. I am Adam Martin, editor-in-chief of Wrestleview.com. I want to talk a little bit about what to expect when you tune in on Monday nights here on Phoenix FM. First of all, I want to thank Darrell O'Connor for giving us this opportunity. And it was really cool that he reached out. We're going to play some clips from a recent podcast we did a few weeks ago that still had some timely conversations, so it's not too outdated. But I'll reiterate some of the stuff I said on that podcast. Basically just thanking Dara for giving us this opportunity and giving us another outlet to more people to listen to the show. So if you are listening to this and you want to reach out, at Adam Wrestleview on Twitter is the best way to reach us. We'll set up some more avenues as well as things develop, but I wanted to thank Dara first for that. I'm taping this very late Sunday night, early Monday morning. Given the time frame of when Hell in a Cell took place, I wanted to get a couple thoughts out. I'm going to be taping something later this week with Doug Lackey, who's someone you're going to be hearing more frequently with me on this program. And Doug's also going to be taking over doing some solo shows as well, with my schedule being a little bit crazy, and sometimes it's hard for us to line up our schedules, but we're going to be more timely with this. We'll be here on Monday, so it may just be Doug doing a show by himself. It may just be me doing a show by myself, most likely with a co-host. I'm going to be doing a lot of stuff with Dara as well. So we're going to figure stuff out. I also want to mention, too, going to be doing some more stuff with the Trey Dog. We did do the Trey and Adam show together for quite a while, and his schedule also got very crazy, so I wanted to bring him in here. We're going to be probably talking more video game stuff and a little bit of wrestling. I know it's a wrestling-oriented show, but we'll still fit in some wrestling in addition to some other stuff that's going on that we want to talk about. Just kind of a relaxed, kind of chilled atmosphere with that show. But at the very least, though, I wanted to check in tonight, talk a little bit about Hell in a Cell, some stuff going on with TNA. It's actually going to be coinciding with, it may actually take place after this airs on Phoenix FM. So it's just something to kind of look for in the news regarding TNA and Billy Corgan and Dixie Carter and all the weird stuff that's taking place with that company at the moment, because there's this weird thing going on with there's a battle, and it's a very public battle in court right now, and we're going to get a resolution soon on a lot of that stuff, so we'll get into that. But I want to hit here in about 10 minutes here, and then we'll go into some of the audio that we did a couple weeks ago, just because, I don't want to sit here and talk about myself for an hour. It'd be a little hard to do, but I've done it before, but just a little strapped. Well, first of all, Sunday night was weird. I know a lot of people listening to this, majority of the people that are going to listen to this are Irish, so they're probably not into American football, baseball. I mean, the World Series took place, again, on Sunday night, the Cubs and the Indians, and I'm a giant Dallas Cowboys fan, and they were playing the Philadelphia Eagles on Sunday Night Football, and so I found myself tonight, in an interesting situation where Mike Tedesco, who recaps, Monday Night Raw for us on Wrestleview.com, he's been stepping up and offering to cover the Raw brand-only pay-per-view shows. So I had an opportunity to kind of relax a little bit. I've been, since about 2002, I've missed a couple shows here and there, but for the most part, I've covered nearly every WWE pay-per-view, every TNA pay-per-view. In the last couple of years, some other people took over covering TNA shows for me on Wrestleview, but it's been a long time, and it's nice to have some people helping out and stepping up like Mike, so I want to thank Mike for that. But I was in a unique situation where I could flip between the football game and Hell in a Cell, and I definitely wanted to make sure I was going to see the main event with everything that was going on with Charlotte Flair. Now she's Charlotte Flair, everybody. If you didn't know that, she's been she's embraced the Flair name now, and Sasha Banks. And that was kind of the first thing I wanted to briefly hit on here, was that there was this weird situation going into the show where a few weeks ago, Mick Foley and Stephanie McMahon put out this image, and Mick Foley did a Facebook post where they said Charlotte and Sasha was going to headline. And then, like earlier last week, Vince McMahon puts out a tweet, and he's pushing this term triple main event, which technically is correct. I mean, there was 3 big matches on this card. There was Sasha Banks and Charlotte Flair for the Raw Women's title. There was Seth Rollins and Kevin Owens for the Universal Championship. And then Roman Reigns and Rusev for the United States Championship. But it was weird. Like, they had first referred to Sasha and Charlotte as the main event. Then they creeped in this triple main event stuff. And there was obviously a lot of questions of, are they going to headline? Very early Sunday morning, a bunch of wrestling media sources said, yeah, as of now, they've made the call that they're going to close the show. And there's a part of me that was kind of like, oh man, the pressure is really, because first of all, the Raw brand stinks right now. It's just not a good show. The writing contrast between Raw and SmackDown is night and day. And that's a lot of pressure for Charlotte and Sasha. Not to mention, we are kind of in this, well, we're not kind of, we are in this like social justice warrior culture right now, where you have to, everything that's said is offensive. It's the land of the free, home of the offended, as Doug has said before in many podcasts. And obviously the women's revolution has been taking place, over a year now in this company. But I do think that there's also this rush to just be like, well, of course the women are awesome. Of course the women are great. I know the women are good wrestlers and I know they're talented, but when you have to like force feed telling me that they're great, then it gets a little obnoxious. And I was a little nervous about that going into this match, but I wanted to make sure I watched it from start to finish with no distractions. I obviously wanted to watch the football game, but I sacrificed the 20-25 minutes. And I thought they started really, really strong. I liked the fact that they were both standing there waiting for the structure to lower. And then Charlotte with the cheap shot right away. And, the match really didn't officially start. They were brawling on the outside and the power bomb through the announce table. I thought all of that was actually really, really good. And then when Sasha was favoring the back and flopping around like a fish out of water, as soon as I got kind of a whiff of, they're going to bring the EMTs down, I went, oh no, we're just recycling the Mick Foley Undertaker, 1998 Hell in a Cell thing, where he gets put on the stretcher and he refuses to go to the back and he pushes everybody away and starts climbing up the structure. Now, granted, Sasha didn't climb up the structure, but all of a sudden her back was fine and she was beating up a bunch of referees and going after Charlotte. And so I was kind of like, do we really, I mean, maybe it's me being nitpicky, but I kind of felt like they didn't really need to do that. There was no reason to do that. They could have been a little bit more creative. And then, the match itself wasn't that bad. There was a couple times where, I just don't think Charlotte and Sasha have the best chemistry. They just don't. Sasha and Bayley have off the charts great chemistry in the ring. And I guess my other issue too with this match was, it was history. We witnessed history. It was the first time, the women headline a pay-per-view. I think that's great. I have no problem with that. But when you're just kind of ham-fisting it in there just to do it, that's where I have the problem. I don't think this match really deserved to close the show. And that's not saying that I thought Kevin Owens and Seth Rollins should have closed or Roman. I don't think either of those matches were that interesting either. Raw in itself right now is just not interesting. Now, you have to pick a match to close a show. I understand that. I'm sure people are listening to this and yelling, but you have to obviously have a main event. So in the sense of those other two matches, Sasha and Charlotte probably made a little bit more sense. But I don't think it was that good of a match. I think the people that were determined to like that match are the same people that were telling me, how great the Young Bucks were or how great, Davey Richards was 3 or 4 years ago. It's just, you gotta put things into context sometimes with these girls, and you gotta put people together that have really good chemistry or at least have some kind of a story or a reason why people would want to get behind this, because these girls have played hot potato with this title now for the last 6 months or so, or a little bit more than that. And I don't know. I wasn't blown away by it. I felt like people were just ready to give this match 5 stars before that cage even lowered. And that's the one thing that just is truly frightening about watching wrestling these days. But there's bigger problems, and the bigger problem is making Raw interesting. You know, these brand only shows are only going to get tougher for Raw. I think that SmackDown for the most part has kept things pretty interesting. Now, you know, they obviously have less time to tell, you know, a lot of stories, so that works in, you know, to their favor, but I don't know. I thought Charlotte and Sasha did pretty good. The finish kind of came out of nowhere, which was kind of weird. Of Sasha getting tossed over. I don't know if they wanted the table to break. They probably did. If you didn't see it, there was a corner where the table was propped up in the corner, and Charlotte tossed her repeatedly over, and it didn't work. But, you know, some of the stuff, like I like Sasha using the steel chair to break up the figure four. It wasn't a terrible match, but this was not it wasn't a very good main event. It was just okay. It was just you know, and again, I didn't watch it from start to finish. I saw, you know, the opening match with Roman Reigns and Rusev. I was very underwhelmed by that match. You know, Owens and Rollins was okay. It's just, again, it's a lack of interest in a lot of the stuff that's going on with the show. And, that's a hard sell. At least it was a hard sell to me when the show's just, you know, it's just not that great. So, and you know, and I guess looking at, we did, every single time we do coverage of WWE pay-per-views, we have a poll up on the Wrestleview Twitter account at Wrestleview. And the question was, what did you think of Hell in a Cell? And I gave it a thumbs in the middle, and that's actually leading the poll right now with 42%, 34% that said thumbs up, and 24% said thumbs down. So, you know, I didn't think it was a terrible show. I mean, it wasn't the worst thing this company's ever produced, but I think people got a little too excited about Sasha and Charlotte closing the show. And it's funny, like, you know, you see how great, like, Sasha Banks and Bayley was from NXT TakeOver, you know, a while ago, and that was a great match. I mean, that had interest, it had intrigue, it had a build to it. I just didn't feel that with this match, and that, therefore, I wasn't totally sold on it, you know, even if it was like the second or third match that I don't know. I think they just got so excited of putting two girls in Hell in a Cell that they just kind of thought everybody else would just go for the ride without wanting to pay attention too much. So I thought it was a little silly, but it is what it is at this point. And then I wanted to quickly get into the TNA situation before we head to a break, and then we'll come back with some audio from the podcast we did a couple weeks ago, where it was just addressing a multitude of different discussions on Bill Goldberg and James Ellsworth on SmackDown and the WWE Network and stuff like that. But the stuff with, if you haven't been keeping up with the saga, I'll try to summarize this as easy as I can, but there's currently a situation where, you know, Billy Corgan provided a series of loans to this company and kind of wants that money back, and feels like he actually should have majority ownership rights because of the fact that a lot of these things were defaulted on. We had a post up on Wrestleview last week covering these proceedings that took place in Nashville last Wednesday, about Billy Corgan's lawsuit that he filed against TNA, Dixie Carter, her husband Serge, and the CFO Dean Broadhead. You can actually see footage of Dixie Carter coming into the courtroom. Billy Corgan was actually not present at the hearing, but Billy Corgan's lawyer was basically arguing that TNA's insolvent, and that Billy Corgan was misled by the company's debts and excluded him from, you know, a variety of management decisions. And, you know, there was claims that, you know, the WWE was trying to buy the tape library. He said he was never made privy to any of that information, which is something he thought he should be made aware of if he's, you know, considered the president of the company. TNA kind of fought back, though. They said that any notion that they're insolvent is incorrect, and that, you know, that cash flow was only a small part of the story, that they still have, you know, merchandising, licensing, and international deals and things like that. And they're basically arguing that Billy Corgan's agreement with Dixie Carter was illegal under Tennessee law, which actually could be bad news for Billy Corgan, depending on how the judge rules. And the judge is scheduled to rule on Monday, on October the 31st. So as this airs, either the judge has already ruled by now or is about to. So we'll find out more. But there's this company called Anthem Media, which is the parent company of the Fight Network in Canada. They own about 2.5% majority shares in TNA, and they've offered to repay Billy Corgan's loan and basically have him go away. And Billy Corgan saying, no, I'm owed this money. You shouldn't be paying that. And the fact that I've not been repaid this money is proof that the company is insolvent, and that there needs to be new management, and that he kind of wants to jump in and take over. So it's been a very, very interesting situation. to say the least, with this TNA and Billy Corgan and lawsuits, and a bunch of information came out recently about all this money that they owe, and credit card bills that went unpaid, and there's just a lot. There's just a mess right now, and all the while, they've taped all this footage for Pop TV. It's going to be airing in the coming weeks. I know at one point there was plans to do some television tapings at the beginning of the new year in January. That's kind of up in the air now. It doesn't look like they're going to do their annual tour of the UK because of all these money situations and the lawsuits and everything. But it was weird because going into Bound for Glory, there was all this talk of is this it for TNA? And then this Anthem Media company, stepped in and made sure that, money was provided for not only the pay-per-view, but for the TV tapings. A couple of people I spoke to in TNA that, are just part of the staff said, it's business as usual. And all those notions of, plane tickets being canceled and hotels and all that stuff, it was still on. It was just, there's just a lot going on. So it's kind of an interesting place. And I can't imagine what that would be like, being someone that's on that roster, that's, a part of the staff. And all this stuff is just out there and it's public and everybody can read. I mean, you can literally pile through all these unsealed documents and just find out all this information about TNA, and it's not good. So even if somehow Dixie Carter survives this and gets Billy Corgan out of, the position that he's in as president, it's not good news for the future of this company with all the stuff is out there. But apparently this other company wants to see them continue, the Fight Network company, Anthem Media. So we'll see how this develops. All right, we're going to take a break. We're going to come back. It's going to be audio from my recent podcast with Doug Lackey on Wrestleview.com. Thanks for listening, and we'll be back next week with more thoughts on Hell in a Cell and some new conversations. Thanks, everybody.
You're listening to Phoenix FM, community radio for Dublin 15.
Follow us on Twitter at 925PhoenixFM.
This program is a recording, and the Phoenix FM text line is currently closed. If you wish to comment on this program, email info@phoenixfm.ie. and your comments will be passed to the program makers.
We are going to be bringing this program also to broadcast radio, to terrestrial radio on 92.5 Phoenix FM in Dublin, Ireland, which is also the home of the Wrestleview International Desk. And I don't want to take anything Dara said out of context, but I'm pretty sure he said this on the show I just did with him last week. Which also, by the way, we're going to be incorporating the International Desk shows going forward on our SoundCloud account, which is our RSS feed, and our iTunes page. So anytime they pump out a show, boom, it'll be there as well. Just to make it kind of easier, and we're trying to figure some stuff out with hosting, and I talked about that with Dara on the show. So if you want to know more about that, listen to that. But starting this coming Monday, we'll be doing a show pretty much every Monday, and it may fluctuate in terms of it being Doug and myself. It might be a week where it's just Doug by himself doing a show. It may be a week where I bring in Trey and we do a Trey and Adam live kind of, because I talked to Trey the other night, and he definitely wants to, now he can't commit to something weekly, but he wants to maybe start doing something monthly or once or twice, every few months or something. So we're going to figure it out. But generally, we were talking about Doug. There's, there's been months like this month. There's 2 pay-per-views, technically 3 if you count the TNA show. So there's going to be months where the WWE's brands are going to be producing 2 shows. So we're going to have that. Another one coming up, Hell in a Cell, in a few weeks. November just has Survivor Series, but then December, I believe, has TLC, maybe not 2 shows, but there's months where there's going to be a couple. So we'll stick in and talk about them and talk about different topics. And if there's not a pay-per-view, then there's just always something to talk about. So I guess the end game, the goal here is to have more audio content. And we're going to have basically this show, we'll have it live. But then we'll also have a time slot in Dublin, in Ireland. So that's pretty cool. So we're excited.
Yeah. And the one thing is, when Adam was telling me about this Sunday, I think it was it Sunday or Monday? No, Monday, I think it was. I can't remember which day he told me about this. It was sometime last week. Yeah, it was like Thursday or Friday you told me about this. I literally sat and I was like staring at the wall because finally I got a reason to bring 3R back.
Exactly. There's a multitude of things we can do with that time slot. So, and it's like it's like a 1 hour in and out. It's going to be a little more traditional radio sounding because there's going to be breaks and stuff, but because we're a little, not to say though, but Dara pretty much does the same thing though. He comes on and he's pretty casual with how he does the show. And he was telling me, and I don't think I'm, going out of bounds by saying this, but he was getting incredibly good feedback from Phoenix FM in Dublin about the international desk, and they do really, really well, really, really good numbers. And I think that kind of, I think this is another example, Doug, of people being quite surprised at the audience levels that professional wrestling can generate. And they just kind of think, oh, it's just a wrestling show and just a couple dorks, talking about guys in stretchy pants, which for the most part it is. But, I think there's still that kind of surprise that, a lot of people, either tune in live or they listen to archives. And so there's definitely a big outlet there. And, I got to actually see the studios last year when I was in Dublin. It was really cool to see that and to sit in studio and kind of see the equipment and stuff that Dara works with. So, I don't know if there's ever going to be an opportunity for a live show on Phoenix FM because of the time difference. They're about 6-7 hours ahead. So we may be able to swing that if Dara would be interested in doing something like that, or if we could get some kind of a producer it would just require a producer pumping us in, from the States to their studio, essentially. But, haven't really quite gotten that far with it, but essentially, going forward, there's going to be more audio content, through our SoundCloud, through Wrestleview, and then now in Phoenix FM. So I'm pretty excited about that. And like you were talking about, some stuff, maybe you doing some solo shows because, I have a crazy schedule, you have a crazy schedule. So maybe it won't align that we'll be able to do one every single week, but there'll be something, essentially.
But this is basically what I honestly want to say. This is something that I would think that you've always wanted to kind of hope to have, and something I know I've always wanted to have is having the medium to create the content that we've always wanted to create on a time basis that is more comfortable.
Yes.
And is easier to do. There's a big difference between, we'll just bring it back when we had, Wrestleview Radio in the VIP section, and we were pumping out content day after day after day. There was a point to where I know you and I had 3 shows going on at 1 week at a time, sometimes even 4. But the problem was that was all live. We never really, taped and then put it on later in the week.
Yeah.
We would tape and then put it on the next day, or tape it and put it on the next 2 days following. We had to constantly pump out stuff. Whereas with this kind of position that we're in right now, for one, there's a tremendous amount of creativity with this. There's so many different things that we can do, whether it be myself, Adam, Trey getting involved, and others getting involved. But at the same time, with it being at the frequency that it is on a weekly basis, at the time frame that it is, it flings the doors wide open for anything. But I also want to put it at the same time how you were talking about with how talking about pro wrestling and radio and how there's sort of a bigger audience now. It really depends more on the show itself and how big the audience gets. And a big cause for that are the hosts that are doing it and how seriously they take it, and also how much fun they're having, and it does come to a point to where when you're talking about pro wrestling, some people take it way too seriously and don't have enough fun talking about it. Whereas I believe with Dara and their show with the International Desk and with us talking about it, we have that balance of we're just shooting the crap, just talking stuff about stuff that we like. We have fun doing it. We don't get angry about it. We don't get stuck up about it. And we just invite everyone else to come on in,
And it's a medium we've always we thought would be fun to crack. We've always, at one point in the very early days of Wrestleview Radio in the VIP section, we got approached by a radio station in Boston. But the sponsorship situation was a little iffy, and Hunter ultimately said, I don't know if we should do this. And so we backed off on it. But at the same time, though, we were always kind of fine with internet because, like you said, we would come on live after Raw, we would come on live after pay-per-views, and it's kind of like what we do now. We're not expecting gangbusters people to join us live on a Tuesday night, but this is when we're doing it. So we're pumping it out live. So if people are around, they want to listen live, cool. But I know, majority of the audience is going to be listening to this on a delay through our podcast feed. And That's how I listen to podcasts. I don't listen to live shows very often, but we have the option there for you if you want to listen live. But the Phoenix FM thing just takes it to another level there too, and there'll be more crossover with Dara and those guys. So I'm pretty excited, and I thought it was really cool that his show. Essentially, what happened was he just kept getting offered more time slots, but he's like, well, I only have so much content that I can provide, so would you guys...
Oh, darn, what do I do with all this airtime?
And that's the thing, it's a good problem to have, if you're those guys. So it means they're doing things very well, and they're being very successful with stuff, and that's kind of where wrestling's at right now. Like, maybe people are looking at the television ratings and going like, well, I don't know about this, but there's probably just as many people watching wrestling now than ever before because of how content gets consumed. And like, that's one thing no one really talks about. They look at like what the rating pops for Raw on a Monday, but they don't count in like how many people watch clips from Raw on YouTube or Facebook or Twitter or Instagram or Snapchat or, they're just totally ignoring like these like other things that draw millions and millions of people. So you could add in those, those factors.
I mean, if you want a case in point, you look at the first presidential debate that we had here in the States. It was the highest rated, 84 million, but that was only on TV. They didn't track how many were watching online or, on various apps for that matter. It easily could have gone into the hundreds of millions, So I never ever let's not get into discussions about ratings.
I know, but
I want to try to avoid that.
Can we just first, how great is James Ellsworth? I'm sorry, I'm incredibly distracted by James Ellsworth tonight. He just shows up on SmackDown like all the time. He's like the SmackDown mascot, and he just does the fists, and he just looks like terrified yet excited, and I'm just so excited about James Ellsworth.
His shoulders constantly tensed up like he has no neck.
I know. JBL called him an alien tonight on the show. It's like, it looks like an alien. It's ridiculous. And I just, I love everything about that character.
He has no chin. I love it. I love it. He has no chin. He
has no chin at all. And Steve just chimed in on Facebook Live that Ellsworth is getting a title shot. You just told me that about a minute ago before we came on here. Which is amazing.
Been confirmed.
It's totally amazing. So I think somebody put up a clip on, the Trey and Adam show page just now of, I think the official announcement. So, that's pretty cool. I'm very excited about this. Look at what he's wearing. I'm watching the Talking Smack thing. Let me see if I can.
Yeah. Go ahead and bring that up. I mean, there's nothing bad you can say about this guy.
There's nothing bad you can say about him. I have to see if I can I have to see if I can get this roll here. Hold on. I got to make sure I got all the audio muted on our end. This is pretty amazing. This James Ellsworth thing is just totally taking off. I'm going to get the video up here. This is our Facebook page. Well, we have two. We have the Wrestleview one, and then we frequent the Trey and Adam show, which I'm going to give an update on that one, how that one's been developing. Let me see if I can get this.
We talked about stuff that's going on SmackDown next week. Like I said, we've got Alexa Bliss versus Naomi. We've got Jack Swagger versus Baron Corbin. Mm-hmm. But also, next week on SmackDown Live, James Ellsworth will get a WWE World Championship match against AJ Styles.
Oh my God!
Yes, I am dead serious.
Wow! Congratulations!
I'm speechless. I don't know what to say.
Yeah.
I just thank you. That's the only thing I can say. I can't believe this. This is surreal. This is a dream.
He's so great. He's wearing a suit and a tie, and it's just.
Well, no, look at this. Look at the shirt and tie. I mean, just look at. He seriously looks like any ninth grader.
He does. Look at him. I love this man. You know what's great about him too, is he's like the nicest guy on social media too. Like I just started following him on Instagram and Twitter, and he's just friendly, and he's like, he just has positive messages, and he's always taking photos. He's just a nice man. By the way, did you see the Styles clash that he took tonight?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm gonna see if I can get well, I'll let
it's
you
not well, it's not as bad as what people are thinking. I mean, yes, it looked horrible.
It looked
okay,
it was
but people are thinking that he's really hurt. No, not at all.
Well, clearly he's not hurt. He's fine on Talking Smack. But I'm gonna see if I can get a image of this up. Somebody, Wrestler Monkey on the Twitter. I'm gonna give him full credit for this. Let's put this up on the screen so everybody can see this. He ducked he did what a lot, like, I'm trying to remember, I think Roderick Strong maybe did this. I'm trying to remember the wrestler. And I don't know why guys do this, but they, for some reason, forget to just take it like a normal, just face buster kind of bump. And
they're so used to taking DDTs, I guess, or something.
I guess.
I don't know.
Is that what it is? But yeah, he, God, I'm watching that again. So good. Obviously,
you just got just put yourself in his position, and dear God, I'm not a pro wrestler by any means, but I think this is the only move where you have to remember that when you're the one taking it, you have to flex your neck back.
Yes.
As you're going down. And so that is kind of awkward to try to do, but it did look really rough and awkward, but he also landed on his knees to deflect whatever jamming would happen in his neck. So yeah, he's just fine. And let's just face facts. None of us could know what the hell to do if we're in that move. So
but it's like the Styles Clash is kind of like common sense now at this point, unless you haven't seen it. I mean, I guess if you've never worked with him, maybe that's something you should have a little bit of a conversation about, like, hey, you need to take this on your face, not, take a spike pile driver on the top of your head. But either way, that was a little frightening to watch tonight. But
what I've never understood is, why is that such a powerful move? It does not look painful to me.
It's more gimmicky. It's just kind of a fancy little setup. It's not really anything, but
not at all.
I like the calf crusher.
My thighs hit the mat. Oh no.
Well, I thought his offense, he's incorporated some new stuff, like he's always kind of done the springboard forearm, but I feel like that feels more devastating, or even the calf crusher and a lot of the stuff that he's still using some of the old stuff, but
it's all about the forearms with him. That's the one thing they've tried to tell him. It's all about the forearms, and my God, he is great at the cocking back and flexing the legs back to bring it forward. He does a great job with those, and they've told him to stick with those.
He likes him some forearms, so we'll see how that develops. It's still crazy. He's only been here for 10 months, and he's just totally just tearing. He was, and I know we'll get into SmackDown a little bit tonight, but he's been really entertaining. Like incredibly entertaining. And even Ambrose was good tonight. And Ellsworth, I think maybe Ellsworth just kind of took it to another level because he's just so amazing. But the one thing that stands out that, of course, we have to talk about is the Bill Goldberg thing. And there was a multitude of rumors of, leading into this, and that was another one I was like, I'm just gonna wait till they actually run an angle on TV before we start getting everybody excited. But if you go to a million wrestling websites, you probably already were excited about it. But I have seen mixed reactions to this, though, Doug. Of Bill Goldberg's 49 years old, I think. Is that? Let me Google that.
Yes, he is 49 years old.
49 years old. So there's a 49-year-old who's taking on what?
39-year-old.
Brock's 39. I thought he was even older than that. Okay, so he's 39. So there's a difference. There's a slight difference there, but
just a little bit of difference.
A little bit of a difference there. So
slight difference.
What? I guess.
The better question is, all right, they want to do this match. What do they have to do to make us excited about this match?
Well, there's some people going, why don't you wait till the Rumble to do this in the Alamo Dome? Like, why are you rushing to do this for Survivor Series in Toronto? Like, I know
people are going to forget you have a video game in January.
That exactly. It's all based off. This is another thing, like how the Sting hype happened from the video game, and then this is the same thing we got 2 years ago at Survivor Series. Was all the excitement off Sting.
How we got the Ultimate Warrior hype was from the video game.
Yeah, that video game's doing a lot of. Should we blame the video games? The video game.
I have been blaming video games for a lot of things that are wrong about professional wrestling. Okay, this is one of them. Okay. So, if they're using the video game to bring back people, and I understand you got to have it out before Christmas so that it sells, can we not try to have it at a better time to where the match that you want to do to ultimately sell this game is on something that'll make money on both ends?
Here's the thing, though, and I'm gonna say this, and I want to hear your reaction to it. We were talking about social media and how people consume wrestling content-wise differently than they ever have before. I just told you I watch clips of Raw on YouTube. I don't really watch the show live. I had maybe close to 10 people, either Monday night or earlier today, go. And like people, like sometimes I talk to, if it's just occasional, texts here and there, but I have people go like, so, what's this Goldberg thing? And the Goldberg thing was trending on Facebook. Like if you looked at the list of topics in the world, Goldberg was trending. I'm sure it trended on Twitter last night when the Raw promo went down with Paul Heyman. It does get around now. Like when these announcements go down, it does. I saw CBS do a video, Doug. CBS Sports pumped out a video saying, guess who's coming back? And they had the old Goldberg footage with the pyro in WCW and the smoke coming out of his nostrils. And so it's kind of like, is it them trying to grasp and understand people consume content differently now? So if we, obviously, like you had said, the goal is to sell copies of this game for Xbox, for PlayStation, it's a console game. So the goal is to move units, sell people on it. But then there's this other element that I'm seeing. It's organic. Now, granted, 10 people is not a representation of the population of the people, but do you think maybe those people...
But it's 10 people that you know.
It's 10 people I know that normally aren't into wrestling, so would those people maybe grab a free subscription and check it out, maybe decide to hang on and then go, oh, look, I can watch all these old WCW pay-per-views with Goldberg on it. I didn't know this. And I don't know, is it their way of kind of testing the waters, kind of like what they did with Sting?
There is a very, the cynical capitalistic skunk in me is about to come out.
Okay.
This is called the Michael Bay effect.
The Michael Bay effect. Okay.
And why I call it this is, people aren't coming to the movie theaters. Well, what is the buying age right now? Okay. So it's the usual, the consumer age is, between the ages of 25 and 40. Okay. Those people that are 25 to 40, what did they like when they were kids? Those people that have money now, what would they like to see that they would spend money on that they really miss when they were young that'll make them feel really good? How about Transformers? How about Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles with lips, no less? This is Michael Bay. WWE has been doing this for the past 5 years now. They brought back the Ultimate Warrior. They brought back Sting. Now they're bringing back Goldberg. They brought back Lesnar also for this. And not just because, yes, he's in MMA and UFC and he was big in media and everything, but at the same time, people who were young watching wrestling now have families and stuff, and then when they look on their Facebook feed and look on their Twitter feed and see a name that they remember from 10, 15 years ago in their youth, they're going, holy crap, he's back. Click, buy $10.
So it's kind of like what South Park has been.
It's a nostalgia effect.
It's like the member berries on South Park. Have you seen the member berries?
Yes.
Okay.
It's exactly the member berries. Okay. You watch out when you and I are in our 50s, we're going to see James Ellsworth. Okay. You watch it. It's going to happen.
We're going to get a James Ellsworth rated.
We're getting.
But it's like genuine. I heard like genuine interest coming. Like people were like, "Oh, Goldberg, and like there was an actual like I think I'd watch that, kind of thing. And then there's other people that are just like, "Oh my God, they're bringing a 49-year-old Bill." It's like, and those are the people that are,
and the ones that are exasperated are the ones that have been watching wrestling for the past 10 years.
That's the beauty of this. The people that are totally dialed in are like, and the people that are just like, "Oh, Goldberg, interesting. This could be fun. I might watch that."
You're telling me these old farts are coming back to watch this? Oh God.
There's that weird interest level in it, but it's not 100% official yet, but it's going to happen. So it's going to most likely happen at the Survivor Series. He's coming in on Raw next Monday in Denver to officially probably accept it. And did you see the announcement tonight on SmackDown about the traditional Survivor Series challenge from Shane and Daniel Bryan?
Yeah, we got 3 different matches that they're doing.
Yeah, they want to propose there's 2 5-on-5 matches where it'll be 5 guys from Raw, 5 guys from SmackDown, then 5 girls from Raw, 5 girls from SmackDown, and then they want to do a 10-on-10 traditional one with tag teams from, I would assume, 5 tag teams from Raw, 5 tag teams from SmackDown. So there's going to be just a big conglomerate of people doing these old elimination matches, which everybody freaks out when they don't do these at Survivor Series when they decide to do something else. Which didn't they do one 2 years ago? I can't remember the card last year.
Well, they've done these before, but they've always been tucked in the back. They've always been like the second match of the night, or they've been on the pre-show, something like that. For anyone who keeps bitching about the Survivor Series style match not being in the actual card, well, they've never had a reason to. Now they have a reason to. there you go.
I didn't even remember what this is how bad my brain is with wrestling when I have to like Google what happened at Survivor Series 2015 last year. Like I'm looking right now because I forgot. No, they didn't do any.
Okay.
They didn't. They did Sheamus and Roman Reigns. Oh, remember this was Sheamus Roman Reigns time around this time last year. Remember when he cashed in?
Yeah, that's right.
This is when Reigns beat Ambrose. They had a tournament to crown the new world champion, and then Sheamus cashed in. So there was no. Oh, actually, I take that back. There was two. There was Ryback, the Usos, and the Lucha Dragons against New Day, Sheamus, and King Barrett. And then the Dudleys, Goldust, and Neville, and Titus O'Neil against...
Oh, God, how can I forget the New Day, Sheamus, and King Barrett? That was a fabulous match.
Remember the comic wasteland between Stardust and the Ascension? That didn't last too long. So that's how much I don't... This is... everything just kind of fumbles together with wrestling. I just have a terrible brain for it. I'm sure there's a bunch of dorks listening around going, wow, I could have forgot that.
Oh, you guys run a wrestling website. How can you not remember?
You cover this for a living. How did you forget it? Jason Amico teased, he goes, get ready for Kurt Angle or Jeff Hardy as the big selling point for 2K18 next year. It's possible. At this point, anybody's possible. You can toss a name out there, and it's most likely...
Well, I don't know. They're going to have to go through about 3 or 4 years of rehab before that happens.
Especially with Curdy Kurt. He claims he's nice and clean and sober now, but I'll believe it when I see it. I don't know if they're... Did you see all the... Because we haven't been doing shows super consistently, but during the summer, I want to say around June, when he was basically saying like, yeah, I've been talking to Triple H and I think we're gonna put a deal together, and Triple H is like, no, not really, but not really, I guess. And then they just kind of had to backtrack on it a little bit, but that's Kurt, man. When he gets in the media, it's just
Curdy Kurt has always been like the Donald Trump of pro wrestling in ways. Like, how many Vicodin does he pop a day? Was it like 48?
He said at one point he took over 60 a day, which I don't know if that's true. He could be inflating the number to make it sound more. He said that on the Dan Lebertard show on ESPN Radio, and everybody went, they gasped in their sports seats because they don't.
Well, he calls it Vicodin. We call them M&Ms.
M&Ms. He did. I mean the Somas and stuff like that. Guys used to pop those, but why is he like Donald Trump?
Well, he lies. He exaggerates a little bit. I've been talking with Donald Trump. I've been talking with Triple H. Triple H likes me.
Well, a lot of politicians lie. Hillary lies too. Everybody lies. That's what they do for a living.
Well, everyone does.
Everybody lies.
Everyone does. It doesn't matter anymore.
No, and I think I'm doing. I did a political podcast briefly with one of my neighbors who has since moved away, but there was a question posed during the first debate, like, "You guys doing a show?" And I'm like, "Nah, we're not really doing that show anymore." And then all of a sudden the neighbor's like, well, what about doing a show the night of the election? So I think we're going to be doing something on Facebook Live. So if you want to stop by, let me know.
Sure.
We're just going to be drinking beers and sitting on Facebook Live and watching
I'm more interested in the state stuff that's happening here.
I would be too. I'm more intrigued by the state stuff happening where I'm at too, but everything's polarizing now. God, I cannot wait. I know this is like cliche, line to say, but my Facebook is just filled with people arguing about Donald Trump and Hillary Clinton. I just don't care. Like,
hide.
I've done that. I've literally done hide notification, or I've had to go to somebody that's overly aggressive and uncheck the follow just for now until November 8th passes. But because there's people that are just so passionate about either one of them, and I find anybody passionate about Hillary or anybody passionate about Trump to be a strange person anyway. So
I've hidden everything that, first off, anything that's a political meme from any side. Well, I've been hiding.
There could be funny stuff, which is fine.
Yeah.
But when it gets too serious, it's like, Jesus, stop it. Like, but I can't get mad because that's kind of what Facebook has become. So I can't get super upset about it, but I'm going to be very happy when that's over.
I'm more angry that there's how they have like and love now, and they have the different emoticons for what you want to do. There's only one level of hate. There need to be varying degrees of hate now with how Facebook is.
More thumbs down or more shut up ones or something like that.
We need thumbs down. We need a middle finger. We need 2 middle fingers.
I'm sick of it.
We need more of that.
I'm done with it. Okay, so
let's talk about more wrestling.
So Bill Goldberg's coming back at 49. Apparently he's in good shape. He said he's been staying in shape. Okay. I'll trust him what he said publicly, and hopefully he doesn't. There was a lot of people joking on our Facebook that he's going to gas out like 5 minutes in, but it's probably going to be him taking a bunch of German suplexes from Brock, and hopefully it's a different vibe from what we got in 2004. Was it at WrestleMania 20? I think it was 2004.
Yeah, it was WrestleMania 20.
Yeah. So going into that and all the buzz around both of them leaving, and the Brock stuff got a little bit more buzz because of the fact that he was already wanting to bail to try to make it in the NFL. So this was before he even sort of thought about getting into mixed martial arts. So we'll see how it goes, but that's gonna headline Survivor Series most likely, and they're gonna bring back the traditional Survivor Series with kind of a brand versus brand concept. So that could be fun. I don't know. It sounds fun. But the one thing that was weird on Sunday was seeing, I guess it wasn't totally weird, but I guess I understand why they made the decision that they made. But it was strange to make that call so late in the game, I guess. And what I'm referring to is Sunday they announced that AJ Styles, John Cena, Dean Ambrose was going to open No Mercy on Sunday versus main event the show. And the correlation immediately that people drew was, well, they're a little nervous about going head to head with the second debate, which was a town hall style debate versus the first one. And you had just mentioned it did like what, over 85 million on TV?
The first one did. The second one, the numbers haven't really come out yet, but I do want to say it's definitely, at least 70 to 80 million.
Okay. So pretty close to where it was, but so they probably saw that Raw got absolutely destroyed in the television ratings that night, and they also had to compete with Monday Night Football, so that, didn't go well. But, there was kind of like a little bit of a concern there, so they decided to open the show with that, and it definitely set a weird vibe for the show. It reminded me of when I would watch a UFC card, and the 3 or 4 fights before the co-main event or even the main event would go, first round finishes, and then you'd be having the main event starting around like 10:30 when usually it starts around like 11:15, 11:30. And then once the main event's over, essentially the show's over, so they have to start airing prelim matches to kind of continue to fill that pay-per-view time slot. And that's kind of how Sunday felt a little bit to me. It was as soon as Styles, Cena, and Ambrose was over. Not to say that everything that followed that was useless and not important, but it kind of it messed with my brain a little bit. I don't know if you watched the show live from start to finish or on Sunday when it happened, but that was definitely the vibe I got from it watching it.
The vibe that I got, well, I'll just go and put first off, Sunday was my girlfriend's birthday. So first off, we'll just put that caveat out there. And the one thing that she said to me was, oh, well then we can have dinner and after that we can watch the debates. And in my mind, I'm like, well, shoot, the wrestling thing is on, but also it's my girlfriend. The debates are going on. That's what I'm doing. Then they announced that the main event's going to be starting the pay-per-view. And so I tell her this and she's like, oh, so you can watch some of your stuff and that you won't feel like you missed anything and then you can watch the debates. And I go, well, yeah, that's kind of why they're doing it. But then suddenly a look came on her face and I was like, well, what's wrong? And she was like, well, can't you watch the pay-per-view anytime you want?
Yes. Well,
and I was like, yeah. She's like, so does it really matter?
No.
And I was like, well, no, not really. So like, she asked like, well, are they going to do anything? Are you going to really miss anything? And what that basically means is like, do you believe something's going to happen live that they will cut out from, if I'm going to watch it on demand? Because WWE has done this. They've taken some episodes of Raw and some stuff from pay-per-views and cut out some things to, kind of fit it into a time frame of some kind. So in my mind, I was like, well, maybe I will. And she basically said, you know what? You've tolerated me all weekend. I'll give you this 1 hour.
So basically, essentially, the world we live in now is on demand. Doesn't matter.
No, it doesn't. No, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter.
And I know that was a concern for. I remember when the network first started up. That was one of the things we talked about was, is it going to take? Because before, when you would watch pay-per-views, you could DVR the shows. When that technology became available, so technically, yes, you could keep that on your DVR box. You could watch it at any point. You could even order the show and let the DVR just, do its thing. And then, you're fine and you can just kind of watch it, at any point that you want to. The strange issue that ran into though was that, when you live in that world, it's less, I don't know. you can watch shows whenever you want to, but now the network kind of creates a new situation where you can watch the pay-per-view from Sunday Live. You can dial up an episode of NXT at any time you want. There's no real incentive to sit there and watch the network live unless you are technically there, and you're maybe if you're, I guess, if you get a show if you go to a show in person, maybe that's a little bit different. So maybe that's the different incentive there, is you have more incentive now to attend shows versus maybe you did before. But the network, it's kind of like Netflix. Like, I have Netflix now. I watch, shows mainly that are Netflix exclusive that same way now. Shows I used to watch on cable, I get through like Hulu and other services now. So I'm watching them even differently than I did even when I was paying for satellite, which was a waste of money. So that's kind of the new world we live in now, Doug, is everything is, at your own schedule, at your own pace.
And honestly, that's why I don't watch television shows a whole lot. I watch more live stuff. I watch more like, sporting events, news events, stuff like that. I mean, television shows and stuff, I can just watch that whenever the heck I want. If everyone's talking about it, so what? That it doesn't really matter to me. And so that's kind of what we're living in right now when it comes to the pay-per-views, to where, oh, hey, main event is starting up the show. I'm like, well, okay, I guess I'll watch you at the same time I would always at my only convenience. It does not matter,
And it was just, and I get why they did what they did, because, that's a lot of people most likely sitting there, watching that debate. I was a little, I didn't get like enraged. Like, I would never get internet enraged at anything at this point in my life, but I was a little skeptical of going with Randy and Bray Wyatt to close the show instead of Miz and Ziggler.
Yes.
Just because there was more intrigue and there was more of a story behind Miz and Ziggler. And granted, the Randy Bray stuff dominated SmackDown for weeks. I found a lot of the backstage stuff to be corny. I know this is professional wrestling and it's supposed to be silly and corny, so I'm not advocating for serious wrestling by any means, but it just kind of, I don't know, it didn't do much for me. It wasn't enough, Doug, is what I'm trying to say, is it wasn't enough to close a show. And I know they had to flip it, so this was never really intended to close a show. But it just seemed like Miz and Ziggler would have been, just especially with the feel good. I wrote in my review, it was just a feel good reaction to Ziggler winning, and we don't get that, too often these days.
But it's not just that. It's equate the build up to these two matches and actually what they are spin-offs of. Okay, let's start off with Bray and Orton. First off, let's go ahead and face facts. Randy Orton emotes about as well as a jar of peanut butter. Okay? I mean, I'm sorry. He what is he supposed to be? He's a sinister guy. I know things you don't. I can do things you can't. I mean, okay. And Bray is Bray. Bray has always been Bray. Okay? But the problem with that program and its buildup was Bray is just picking on Randy, and that's it. That's all that's based on. Bray just picking a fight on Randy. That's all. Dolph and The Miz was a spinoff of The Miz and his tirade on Daniel Bryan on Talking Smack, which got, dear Lord, how many hits. I mean, was the talk of the town about a month and a half ago?
Close to that, yeah.
I mean, it was the talk everywhere, okay?
Because that's kind of the vibe of that show, is that just stuff happens. That's supposed to be the premise.
Yeah, but it was this whole program with Ziggler and The Miz was spawned off of Daniel Bryan and Miz. Mm-hmm. And I don't need to talk about the differences in emoting between Ziggler and Miz. Now compare that to Bray Wyatt and the jar of peanut butter. Okay? You know which one is going to be more intriguing.
And I don't know. Do you think maybe the Luke Harper thing was why they thought, maybe this will work because he's coming back. Maybe this will play well in the main event.
I would absolutely agree with that if it weren't just a whole peekaboo. That's it. Okay. I mean, if he had done something, maybe that would be different.
Okay.
But again, it was just, lights come on, peekaboo. That's it.
Well, Bray Wyatt actually got a pinfall victory in 2016, so that was fairly significant.
Well, that is a first.
I wrote it in one of my reviews, like, I don't care about wins and losses, but like Bray Wyatt, like, just was continuing to like, I don't even know what his purpose is. So at one point it was just to like, oh, his entrance is cool, and he laughs and tells you to follow the buzzards, and he doesn't win matches. I mean, that was kind of what he was doing for a long time. Even when
there's no other character that I've ever seen in professional wrestling that, has as unique of an entrance as him, has as unique as a watermark bar showing his name than anyone else. Has his own intro into the intro for him. Has his own outro. Has his own lighting for his interviews and monologues. Everything is unique with him, and yet he doesn't do jack crap. Okay? I mean, I'm not getting into wins and losses either. Okay? But for as sinister and unique as a character this is, I don't know why in the heck he is so important. I really don't. Yeah, and I guess that's why they pit him with Randy Orton, to really hope that they could bolster this, But Orton's been out for so long, and the very first match they put Orton with is Brock Lesnar. You're going to try to compare Bray Wyatt to Brock Lesnar?
I don't know.
No, you can't. If you're wanting to build Bray Wyatt up as a character and keep him being sinister and everything, it would have been nice to put him with Dolph Ziggler, but the Dolph and Miz dynamic is just
it was way better. It was totally better. Anthony said, I think the thing with Orton Wyatt with me is that WWE is in this reality era where everything is made to feel real. Now you get this character in Bray Wyatt that is so off from reality that is completely different from the rest of the programming, and it doesn't seem to be clicking. I don't know if it doesn't seem to be clicking. I mean, I think, there are a lot of people that just do not like Bray Wyatt. They hate the promos. I like the uniqueness of it, but there was a point where it's like, he just kept losing, and he was just a dude. And I think, at one point when they did the brand split, I was like, can we just try a solo run with this dude, like without Luke Harper, without Eric Rowan? Maybe you could introduce a new character, maybe a Sister Abigail, maybe thing, but I know someone, I can't remember who it was, raised the point to me. They said, well, maybe they're little gun shy because of injuries, and maybe they don't want to pull the trigger on that because of, that being an issue in the past with him. So I don't know if that's necessarily the case, but that's something that Anthony had to say.
I know I would absolutely love to try to push him on a singles run of some kind. The problem is the only run you could put him on is their world title. You can't have it on a title underneath that. It has to be the main one because of how much you've built this guy. I mean, you've had him in WrestleMania main event like matches. He's been against Cena and Undertaker. Okay. He is seen as a big deal guy. So having him go on the Intercontinental doesn't make any sense to me. It has to be on the world title, and we don't see that happening anytime soon.
Probably not. But I did like the fact that he won on Sunday and he won tonight. He's winning matches again. So
the streak is alive.
The streak is alive with Bray Wyatt.
Follow the W's.
For once, it's been a little strange.
Yeah.
I'm trying to keep up with some of the comments. There was a question at some point if we were going to address. It was also from Anthony. If we were going to address the potential tiered network. I don't even know if that's worth talking about until it happens. Because, again, that's one of those things where they pump out a survey, and that's just them gauging the interest. And I feel like sometimes the internet gets way too excited about shit like that, and you don't even know if it's going to happen. There's like, and I know it's juicy. I talked about this with Dara. It's one of those juicy it's the same thing that happened with Paige. And we'll talk about Paige if we have time. There's those juicy things that comes out, and everybody gets excited. But,
it's so full of juice, and then you find out it's fermented.
Yeah, and then reality comes crashing in, and you know why we don't run every stupid thing on Wrestleview. And that's, again, the Paige thing was another reason I was like, I'm going to pass for a couple days. Let's just see how this develops. And I'm, again, judgment. Right. Take a breath, everybody. Everybody gets so excited. But that's the, 24/7, bam, 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 bam. I'm on Twitter, dog. I'm tweeting this stuff out. Did you see this? Did you see what happened? And
Yeah. I'll just sit here with my ethics and we'll see what happens.
I'm kind of on that same team right now. It's like, okay, let's calm down a little bit, everybody.
Yeah. Pump the brakes a little bit here. You don't even know what's on the horizon. You don't know if it's a road or a cliff.
Yeah.
Come on.
Everybody needs to calm down. So the No Mercy I thought was an interesting show. It was a little weird, with just that I wasn't expecting that to be the case with what we got, but we got that, so it is what it is.